Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. Heck, your best authentic voice works perfectly too. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person of your dreams, make billions of dollars by the weekend. All right, those last two we can't quite guarantee yet, but we're getting so close. And so just stick with us a little while longer and we'll be able to get you there. And that's why we need you to keep watching. So like, watch, share, anything that you're doing. We're thrilled that you keep doing it. And folks, the reason this works so perfectly is because we bring people on who walk the walk. And today, I promise you, is no exception. So, brushed by greatness, met
Go on.
the founder of the world's first best productivity drink. Mother, friend, coach, creator, content creator, real creator, 500-mile walker, dear friend, and one of my favorite people in the whole world, Allie Connor is here. Allie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to finally be on the podcast. The time has come.
Well, right? Oh, well, you're overdue. You're overdue.
Way overdue.
Because you're wildly patient too, because you shouldn't have had to wait so long. But here we are. So, folks, when Allie explodes, I can say, hey, I remember when, as she was just getting ready to break. So, fashionista, as you can see, artist, and as you can see. And that's all the stuff that I want to center on today as well, too. And manifester.
Yes.
Word. Well, folks, here's the deal. I got to, in a full circle situation, get to meet Allie at Lewis Howes' Summit of Greatness. And Lewis, if you're watching, Marta, if you're watching, first off, congratulations on the wedding. And we were there. We were there when you guys got engaged. And I got to meet Allie in the swag room, right? And that's how we first met. And from there, the friendship was instantaneous. The connection was instant, right?
Yeah. You left and I said to Steve, and I was like, he will be in our lives the rest of our life. Like, he'll be part of our life. I mean, that happens. It doesn't happen often, but you can meet somebody in that instant. The chemistry and just the symbioticness of it is undeniable and also unexplainable, because some people never have that like immediate. And I knew you would play an important factor in our life forever. And that was probably after a 5-minute interlude.
Oh, barely.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
The sense of emotion and feeling, I think is such a prominent part of you in terms of reading and feeling and understanding energy. And to me, that's one of the coolest parts about you. But I'm going to take a couple of steps backwards before that point. We were quite lucky. Allie Connor, as I said, who I'm hoping, well, you're going to follow her on YouTube and on Instagram and what have you, has this amazing sense of creativity. I'm going to start my questions right off the bat with, which is this. I had no idea that you leveraged geometry to make kites. And so I love the fact Allie's an educator, by the way, too. So Allie's an educator, and Allie has been in education for, oh my God, it was 15 years, right? At this point and counting. Allie's a mom who has done wildly creative things with her kids. So I'm on LinkedIn and I see that Allie used geometry to create kites, which is, if you're in my world, I wouldn't know how to fly a kite with anything, let alone.
Yes. How did you know that? Tetrahedron.
We do our homework here.
Some background check, John.
Listen, Allie, and as we talked about prior to the show, we do really extensive background checks. So this is to me a highlight. How long? What drew you to education? And then we'll get to the kite stuff after.
I knew since I was 4 years old, that's where I wanted to be. I remember I got a little, like a chalkboard thing, and I always wanted to pretend to be the teacher. So my sister and I we would switch back and forth between the teacher and the student for years. So it was never, there wasn't anything else I wanted to be other than a teacher. And so it was just a given. And I was so I was so natural at it. And I felt like that was my wheelhouse.
How did you know?
And it suited me because there wasn't a student I could not reach. That was my gift. Wow. And I learned that right on where I went in my first year of teaching. I was in an inner city school and one of the only white teachers. And I taught special ed. So it was back then, it was called SBH, severe behavior handicap. And I had a room full of all boys and one girl. Most of them had ankle monitors, arrest records. And I adored them. And I had come from a situation where I did my student teaching in an inner city. And I had a great mentor teacher. And so that set me up. And so I went in there with such confidence, knowing that if I showed them respect, I was going to get that back. And it did not matter what age I was, what race I was, or where I came from. And that came to fruition. And so I always had a connection with every student. It did not matter what. I'd find a way. I would find a way, or I'd manipulate a way, or I'd have good candy to be like, okay, listen. and on top of that, I made sure that I made contact with their moms or their aunties or grandmothers before I ever made a call that what was negative. So I would build them up first so that if I ever had to call, I already had, clout with them. And so I was just good at it from the get-go. And I felt like that was my calling. And it showed because I learned so much from them. In fact, here's one of my favorite stories. I had all these boys and they all had these records and they'd been kicked out of schools. But I'd come from, part of my student teacher was in an elementary school. And so I had to have stickers because I put stickers on everything. Well, I had all the extra stickers. So for my students, my high school students that are seniors, I was putting stickers on every paper. I didn't care what they got. I just put a sticker on. And then I finally ran out of stickers. Almost every single student came up to me after I ran out of stickers and they'd be like, where's my sticker?
The high school seniors.
Yes. And I realized how much those stickers meant to them, even if it said very good or anything. And so then I told myself, I will never write an F on somebody's paper ever again. And every paper, I will give them a star, a heart, or a sticker. And that was huge because I saw almost an immediate change in the students just over stickers.
So acknowledgement was one of those things that you learn, which is a big deal, that when you acknowledge somebody, and I'll ask before, when you said a lot of the students, and they're not necessarily babies, kids, if they're high school seniors, they're, closer to adults at this point. Were you intimidated when you walked in the classroom? And if so, how did you get over it?
For some reason, I wasn't. I can't even remember the Michelle Pfeiffer.
I can hear the song. I can hear the song that's going on with the guy with the crazy hair. Yes. Right?
Yes.
Gangster's Paradise.
Yes. Yes. And so I was almost like, bring this on because I felt like that was my calling. And like I said, I'd come from part of my student teaching was in something similar. And I had such a good mentor. And so I felt so confident. But if I had I not had that student teaching experience, I probably would have been a little intimidated and nervous. But it was so good. And I realized another thing that my mentor said is
Right.
never shame them.
Mm.
Never do that in public. And
Mhm.
I had seen other teachers do that. And I thought,
Sure.
that's why these kids aren't respecting you. You don't respect them.
Mhm.
And you're trying to make them an example and make yourself look better. So if I ever had an issue with a kid, I never dealt with it in front of other kids. And I
Mhm.
learned that early on. And I think that was huge because I was relatable because I knew I wouldn't want a teacher to do that to me. So I'm not going to do that to a kid. And I realized that all of these kids needed to be nurtured. Many of these kids had never been hugged or loved. And so
Mhm.
I treated them like they were my own kids. And so they would come in during lunch and I would read to them. There was a book, The Freedom Riders.
Okay.
And it was a teacher that taught in LA, and she had a group of kids kind of like mine.
Mhm.
And she had them start these diary entries. So she wrote a book, Freedom Riders, and it became a movie. And it's such a good book because I would read it out loud, but in the diary entries, there would be cussing. So they loved that I would cuss out loud. I'd be like, okay, shut the door because I have to drop an F-bomb.
Right.
So I would do that. And so reading to them and just like really empathizing with them and
Mhm.
knowing that if anything happens, what I wanted them to know is that at any point in their life,
Mhm.
they would be able to look back and know that I always, always had their back. And
Mm.
they knew I loved them and they knew I cared about them. And that was the game changer. And it's interesting because I team taught with a teacher who had been there for years, and there was a lot of show in him and bravado, and he would
Right.
always bribe the kids. He'd
Mm.
always bring them food and let them
Mhm.
get away with things. And
Yeah.
one time I left the room and I came back, and the kids, instead of doing math, they were throwing dice and like betting. And I was like, okay, that's good for math, but can we not do that?
Mhm.
And the teacher let them do that. And I asked them not to do that in my classroom. And I came back the next day and they did it again.
Mhm.
And I said to them, I was like, you guys, I asked you not to do that. And when I said, like, I was kind of disappointed that I said that the day before and yet they did it. I remember looking at them and it's like they finally got it when I said, if I asked you not to do something, don't disrespect me by doing that in my
Mhm.
classroom just because he let you. And it was like he wanted to be cool with them.
Oh, right.
And he was cool with them because he'd
Mhm.
buy them chips and bring in everything. And yeah, sure, do dice. They're doing their thing. And I just thought, no, you're not asking enough of them. And that made a difference because I saw how much more they respected me than they did him. Because they never did that again in my classroom. They would do that in his.
But not yours.
Yeah. And so that was huge for me too, that I realized that I could earn respect as a young teacher and get more respect than this teacher that had been there 20 years and was cool and giving them snacks. And they basically all came up to me and they thanked me. And it was such a positive outcome.
So I love the fact. So I hear preparation before you did your own homework before. I
Yeah.
mean, understanding what was going on, had a mentor to guide you a little bit.
Yeah.
The preparation, the respect, the aspect of respect, the creativity, and the accountability. Did you have those in your family growing up
Yeah.
with your family? Like I said, where I was going to say, in addition to the mentor, where did it come from that you knew that mattered?
Yeah, I came from an amazing,
Mhm.
where we have always loved and adored and appreciated and respected each other. I mean, I've always
Mhm.
been aware
Wow. That's
of how
lucky.
lucky, how lucky I am.
Mhm.
And I never went through a weird phase ever, like not liking my parents or my
Mhm.
siblings. It's almost it, it it's almost too good to be true because my siblings and I got along because we had a lot of fun and we laughed a lot in our house, and we didn't take things too seriously.
Oh, okay.
And so I think we didn't major in the minors. Like my parents were
Wait a minute,
amazing.
say that again. We didn't.
We didn't major in the minors. Yeah. And so I came from such a grounding background
Mhm.
and my parents were still together and loved each other. And so that was big.
The creativity part, was that always in you?
I've always been
Even the
creative,
stickers and stuff, you know what I mean? But like all the way through.
but I have become so much more creative because about 2 years ago,
Mhm.
I realized I was a perfectionist, and I didn't think I was, because when you think of perfectionism, you think that everything has to look perfect. Like you would come into your house and it would look perfect, and people would be able to say, "Oh, she's so perfect." It wasn't that. I looked at perfectionism as you have an idea of how it's supposed, the end result. And so you're not able to let that go. And so there was one day when I looked around my house and I just thought, I have started so many things and then not finished them.
Okay.
And so when I have all these creative ideas and then I'll start and then I get bored by them and then I don't finish them. And I was like, why can't I just finish one thing? And do something.
I'm so sorry, I'm laughing. Talk about like positive reinforcement.
Just let me finish something so I can be like, oh, I actually did something. I finished this. So I told myself I'm going to start a 15-minute challenge where I'm going to set a timer. And I had to go around my house and create something. And I was acting as if at the end of 15 minutes, I would have to give something to somebody to show my creativity. And here's what it was. It did not matter how it turned out. I just had to have a finished product. So I started my timer. I'm running around. I'm grabbing like a poster board from something. I'm going into my daughter's room and I find some magazines and I'm looking for tape. I can't find tape. So I had chewing gum. So I'm using chewing gum to put stuff together. And at the end of the 15 minutes, what I had created was so cool. And I realized it was because I didn't allow myself to overthink anything. And my objective was solely to finish something. And because
finished.
finished.
Right. Okay.
And because it was finished, I looked back at it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is more creative than I would have even been able to I wouldn't have been able to come to that creativity. And it hit me that my perfectionism and thinking that I had to have an end result, that was what was keeping me. So I started doing these 15-minute challenges where I would just create something. And I ended up creating the coolest collages in 15 minutes that I would have never been able to before. And I all of a sudden realized that my creativity was cultivating more creativity, where it became so effortless. And then it just, from there, it was almost nonstop.
So do you remember what the first piece of art or the first project? What was it?
Yes, it was. Okay. Wait a minute. So
there you go. It's perfect. So I see tips.
I have the bigger one. Hold on. 3 years ago, after reading the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Oh my God. Right.
So much wisdom in there. And I said to myself, if I were to come up with 10 bits of wisdom, what would I say? So I got this poster board and I just started writing down to begin with, I just want to think of 10 things. But I kept the poster board.
Oh my God.
And every time I would think of something.
Now walk a little bit to there you go. There.
Yeah.
There. Now I can see it really clearly, and I want to see you too. But anyway, all right, continue. Continue the thought, because we can hear you.
So this is kind of my life's life's tips, evolving. And then I took a picture of this and then I printed it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I kind of tore that up and put it in a collage. So it looked really cool. And then I found like an IKEA frame. And then I did a few other things. And this is what's so crazy. And this is bringing it back to Lewis House.
Yes.
I did that right before the Summit of Greatness. And I gave it to Martha. And I was going to give it to Lewis because I ended up finding pictures of them and then adding them in the collage. So it looks kind of cool because my life's tips were in the back. And then I had gone on Instagram and found really cute pictures of Martha and Lewis. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to Summit of Greatness. I want to get Lewis's attention. I'm going to create this. Well, then I thought, no, I'm going to give it to Martha, not him. And so I gave it to Martha.
You're so smart, right?
Right. I was like, no, I'm going to give it to her. She loved it. So she said she knew exactly where to put it. I don't know if she did, but she has my actual first piece of my 15-minute challenge.
So what year was that?
That was the year before we met.
Right. So 23?
Yes.
So
and
I was there, but we hadn't met.
Okay, I have a picture of Martha holding it. And so, so that was it. That was my first 15-minute challenge.
Oh
and
my God.
Wait a minute. Give me 10 seconds. Let me get. Okay. So this can look a little bit busy, and I know it is, but this is something that I created in 15 minutes.
Okay, this is important. The timeline. So, right?
And I found cardboard.
Is that a pizza box?
Yeah, I think yeah.
Oh my God.
And so, is that?
Don't be a salty bitch. I see. I see. All right. Who's? Pink. Never mind.
Yeah.
So that was the first. And I've seen it. So I see pink. I literally see phrases, and I'm trying to read them. Okay. Hold on. Da da da. Dance. Da dance.
And those are lyrics from her song.
Yes. Wow. So this is a 15-minute project.
Yeah. And it was like I was able to then, and then like right here, these are paint chips where I went to. So like when you go to Lowe's and you see all those paints, and I started loving. So you then look at things differently, and it just opened up my mind for creativity. So this little paint chip right here.
Right.
Says pursuit of happiness. So everything is very specific to this. And like just little things like that.
So let me ask you something before you continue. Here's my thought, which is everybody's mind is different. And so I don't like to bring in a grouping or whatever, but I would imagine the first couple, like I think about like clocks and timers and limits. And the sense, here's what I'm going to ask you, because you could equate that to, she's just throwing anything up against the wall. Or you could look at it as you can handle or grace under pressure. I guess that's the expression. Which one was it for you in the beginning?
At first, I just wanted to finish something in 15 minutes. But what I realized is I thought, okay, the next time I do this, it's going to be better. What would make it better? And I thought, if I'd only had double stick tape, if I only had, push pins. So eventually I got everything so that I wasn't looking around for everything and my creativity could go right into it. And by doing that, I was always thinking, how could I make this better? So, for example, if somebody were to say to me, okay, we need you to plan a wedding for 150 people. You have a budget of $1,500 or whatever.
And the wedding day is...
It's in 9 days. We don't know where it's going to be. That is my wheelhouse.
So
I would know exactly what to do. And I would be able to have a team. I'm like, okay, this is what you're going to do. This. And that is only because I really started this 15-minute challenge 2 years ago. And every time I did it, I thought, what could I do to make this better? This was like one of my second or third ones, and it looks thrown together. But if somebody were to study it, there's so much nuance. And I mean, if this were much bigger and more spread out, but it's an example of how I know exactly how to put things together. And not only that, but even like, as crazy as it sounds, the different push pins and the different like depths and everything, you learn that. And so I constantly want to evolve. And I'm always thinking, okay, how could I just do it a little bit better next time and more efficient? And then that just kicks in. And then honestly, magic happens.
So
that you don't expect.
Right. And my thought is there's the handling situations under pressure impacts so many different things to be able to convey a message, including using the paint chips with the expressions and stuff. Like, to me, that's so significant in regards to what you're able to do, because I would have a very strong sense. I'm grateful because I know you, so I know the answer. But what I was going to say was it's incredible because you also have a very innate ability to be able to explain not just the process, but to explain the work of art. And to me, it's the opposite of, look, folks, as you follow Ali Connor on Instagram, the Joyful Badass, and throughout YouTube and whatever, there are projects that I've seen you take on, like declutter projects, like these sorts of, and to me, these all define handling pressure.
Yeah.
Because whether the declutter sense of you're so attached to each and every trinket that I couldn't possibly, you have to make tough decisions fast. So where do you think that came from, other than just the challenge? Where does that come from?
That came from wanting, I realized that when my house almost sparked joy in every quadrant,
right,
then I'd be at my happiest. Because I envisioned being able to invite anybody over, a whole gaggle of people at any moment for a dance party. That's kind of like, my ultimate.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want them to come in at certain times. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to get really serious about decluttering and everything. But I also knew in order to do that, I want to be able to do that fast. And so I came up with rules.
Oh, okay.
So like every day I have, I actually made these chuck it buckets, which they're just 5-gallon buckets. And I have like 5 of them. And I would have like 15 minutes a day, which is part of my day. And I would go around the house, and I have something called the 121. I don't know where where I try to throw away 121 things a day. It doesn't matter. And it can be a piece of paper, and I get credit for it.
Okay.
And so kind of that maintenance of doing that. But then also I realized so many people waste time just looking at their closet. And I thought, no, you need to have rules so that there is no decision making. Like, for me, if I wouldn't wear that outfit out at this very moment, then it doesn't belong in my closet. So because I've created these rules for myself, it takes out 90% of the time, because so many times people don't know what to do because they haven't taken time to create rules, and there's too much gray area. And I got rid of the area.
By the way, you got a special guest right here as well, too. You care to introduce?
Oh, this is my girl, Charlotte.
Hey, Charlotte. Hey, great. Oh, my God. You're welcome, Charlotte. You are welcome. It is great to see you. And I'm really proud of your mom. And why wouldn't I be, right? So thank you.
Very much goals.
Oh, she's amazing. Thank you, Charlotte. So here's what I would say, right? So this is the thing I think that's so significant in regards to the rules and systems and what have you, because I think sometimes that when you are known as a creative, right, that very often the process gets ignored, and so it just comes to me, or it just kind of happened. And I feel like giving credit where credit is due, in the sense that it's a case where there are systems, rules, and so the decluttering, which to me, do you know, I paid somebody to do that, right? Which is,
I get it.
talk about like adding to clutter. It's like
Yeah.
now a larger financial burden
Right.
to you know what I mean? And here's the thing, as I learned, which is they don't know what to throw out.
Yeah.
It's not their house.
Right.
So they're coming over and asking you, hey, what about this? What about
Yeah.
that? You know
And
what I
they
mean?
just hold it up and
So then my head goes bananas.
it's right.
And then so there's tension, stress, and the result of not being able to move forward in the
Yes.
situation or in your life.
Yes. And then you're just stuck. And so, and another thing that I created, and this was huge for me, was
Right.
I realized that momentum can be created in 3 minutes. And so I hit rock bottom, and then I hit the basement of rock bottom.
Right.
And there was a very specific moment where I could not do the simplest of tasks. I mean, we're talking anything, cooking, cleaning, anything was too much for me, because I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to live at that moment.
Are you okay if I ask what caused it?
So it was a horrible breakup, and I was blindsided by it, and I couldn't imagine my life, and blah blah blah. And then it got from bad to worse. And so there was a day when I was just trying to give myself a pep talk, and I'm thinking, Allie, get up and do something. And so I'm going through my head, I'm thinking, okay, could I at least do a load of laundry? And I'm thinking, no, I can't do laundry, because then I actually have to put it away, and I can't do that. That's too much. And so I was sitting on my couch, and I just moved into this house with my 4 kids, and we don't really have anything. But I stared at the wall, and the wall was already dirty. And I was like, okay, Allie, just clean the damn wall. Wash the wall. Wash the wall. That's all you have to do.
Okay.
And so I set a timer on Alexa, and I was going to do 5 minutes. And then I was like, you know what? I can't do 5 minutes. 5 minutes is too much. I was like, I'll do 3 minutes. And so I knew I had a magic eraser. I went and got a wash rag, and I set the timer for 3 minutes. And I started washing the wall. And I got through the first wall, and I started on the second. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've even have time to start on the second. And I said, Alexa, how much time do I have left? And I'll never forget this. You have 37 seconds left. And I just kept on washing, and then the timer went off. And so I got halfway through the second wall, and I sat back on my couch, and I looked at my wall, and I could not believe the difference it made in washing a wall.
What do you remember in terms of the difference?
I saw such a before and after, and it was simply doing such a menial task. So menial. And it was only 3 minutes. And I sat back, and I looked at my wall, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can see a before and after. It only took me 3 minutes, and I created momentum. So I could have gone on. And I realized that all I needed was momentum. That was it. And I only needed, at this moment in my life, I only needed 3 minutes. So today's 3 minutes, tomorrow might be 3 minutes and 10 seconds for something else. And that was such a game changer. So I was staring at my wall, and all of a sudden I had these tears that went from such despair that I'd never felt before. I never felt despair or hopelessness, because I'd had really unfortunate things happen to me in my life, but I always had perspective, and I always thought, it's going to be better and it's worse for somebody else. In this moment, I didn't have any of that. So I was riddled with hopelessness and despair. And like I said, where I didn't want to die, but I did not know how to live. And it was the worst feeling to be a mother of 4. And I was newly divorced and thinking, how am I going to maintain my life? And how are these kids going to look at me? And so my tears went from such like sadness for myself to looking at the wall that I just washed to tears of almost gratitude. And so that was it for me. So I went to the gym that day because the gym was the only place I didn't cry.
Okay.
It was the only place that so I'm on the stair stepper and on my phone, I get on my notes and I make up a 5-year game plan for myself. And it just flowed. I just thought, where do I want to be in 5 years? And I remembered years before hearing Tony Robbins say, people overestimate what they can do in a year.
Oh, right.
But they underestimate what they can do in 5. And I thought, okay, all I need to do is evolve and be better a little bit by that much every day. And that was the gist of my game plan. But I also created it. I have followed that game plan. So I never, ever veered from that. And that was all a result of looking at that wall and thinking, okay, you can clean a wall for 3 minutes. And that was it for me. Yeah.
No, we've talked about Lewis. You just referred to Tony Robbins. You are a graduate or graduate, I guess would be of next level coaching. Like, so it is next level coaching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. High performance or following high or utilizing high performance, has that always mattered to you? Was that always like, when did you first, Mel Robbins, because we're friends, I know of the link that Allie and I have with Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
Like,
it became so instrumental in like, honestly, the wall thing changed everything for me, because then after that, I thought, okay, I want to become a constant learner. So then part of my life, my life plan was I always had to have a book. I was always going to be reading. And so that next week I went to Walmart and I ended up getting Living with the Monks with Jesse Itzler.
Oh my God, right?
And so in the book, in the back of his book, he had just started something called Build Your Life Resume. And I signed up for it. You're familiar with Jesse Itzler?
Absolutely. Saw him with Sarah Blakely. We'll get to, obviously, that factors in your story. But what I was going to say was they spoke separately. I love this because they weren't coming on. It was at the 10X conference. This was, I guess, 6 years ago. But they weren't doing the couple bit, although they both spoke constantly about each other's spouse, but they were separate entities, and I felt like that was so powerful. So anyway,
I just happened to see in the back of his book, he's going to start this Build Your Life Resume, and it's actually him coaching. It's an 8-week thing. Right. He doesn't do it anymore because he's become even bigger. Yeah. But I signed up for it. I started it like the next month. So I am in this group, and Jesse Itzler is my coach.
Wow.
He then has all these crazy challenges. So that was the first year that he decided to do when hell freezes over at his Connecticut house, where you have to go up his hill 100 times in 4 hours. And because we were one of his first groups, he allowed us to be part of that challenge. So I signed up for that. So within months of my dirty wall and coming to all this, this life-changing experiences, I met Jesse Itzler and Sarah Blakely's summer home, running up a hill with all these other like-minded people.
They're still doing it. They're still doing that.
Yes. And so that got me connected into a tribe of like-minded people. Because I don't have that where I live.
A lot of people don't, right? A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so that's what connected me to a different group of people where they do stuff like this. And then I also signed up for his Everesting challenge where
What's that?
so he wanted to climb Mount Everest, but he didn't want to go to Mount Everest to do it. So because he has the money, he rents out a
mountain?
a mountain. So that's exactly what he rents out. And it's a very nice mountain. And
Do they bring it to him, or does he have to still go to the mountain?
so you go there and you have 36 hours
Right.
to climb the equivalent of Mount Everest. And so the one I signed up for was in Sun Valley, Idaho.
Yeah.
But it ended up getting canceled the first year because of COVID. And then so the second year, it was the second year, and I signed up for it, but I had broken 6 ribs right before we were supposed to go. And so I had 0 training at all, but I paid all this money, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to not go there. I mean, Jesse Itzler's there. There are all these other big people have done it in the past. So I just wanted to be around those people. So I get there and I'm thinking, I'm not climbing up this hill because, well, I broke ribs. I have not. I mean, I was to the point where it's like, I don't even want to train because I don't want to start training because then people are going to expect me to climb this damn mountain.
No, they'll all sit and be like, what happened?
Right.
No.
So I was just going to go there.
Oh, you didn't do Everest? No.
Okay. Yeah. So then I thought, okay, let me go up just one time. So I start to go up and I'm immediately thinking like, this is dumb because it's so much higher than I thought. It's a mountain. It's not just a hill. It is the terrain is so rugged. I am around people that have every apparatus. They're sipping from their things. They've got their pickle juice that they're drinking. They have 0 body fat. They've been, I was with Colin O'Brady, who had just done Antarctica. So I'm with these big wigs and
I hope you beat them.
I sure did. And so I thought I'm going to go up one time. Well, and then I thought I didn't want to, but I can't come down the mountain. So I go up one time. And then I thought, okay, Allie, just keep on going one more. Just one more. Just one more. And then finally I got to the point where it wasn't just one more mountain. It was just do 100 more steps. Just make it to this point. Just make it there. It ended up getting to just do baby steps over and over and over again. And so I ended up climbing the equivalent of Mount Denali, the largest mountain in North America, with 0 experience, 0 training, and all mind over matter. Because I just thought, do one more baby step. And I broke it down into that. And that was it.
That's spectacular.
Yeah. And that's one of the greatest things I've done for myself because my mind shifted so much. And I just kept on thinking, just do a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more over and over again. And that's what got me. And it was amazing because I went through the night and I ended up, I was like, it was my most proud moment because I never expected it. And I realized truly what I was capable of and what other people are capable of.
That would be my next question, which is that helps in 2 directions. Give me an example of when you were able to, one of the things I coach people with, and I call it your body of evidence. And your body of evidence is this evolving sort of things that you could put into a chest or, into your storage area or whatever, of things that you didn't think you could, but you did. And to me, one of those things that I've been able to realize was that those sorts of things help you not just in linear things, so the next time I climb up Mount Denali, that it's more than that. That it will help you with things that are maybe even more difficult, but they don't have to be that. Can you think of an example first for yourself of how that has helped you in another aspect of your life? Just the remembering of that, the way you just told that story. Give me an example.
it has changed every way I look at it, because I looked at something that I wasn't able to do, but breaking it down into steps. But on the bigger picture, I realized that everything is doable. And so many times we think almost too big. And instead of just thinking, just do the first step and then get to the next. And so I break everything down into the smallest amounts. And so I've actually written a book, and but it has taken so many edits, and it can be daunting and overwhelming. But what I did was, I don't need to write this book overnight. As long as I am continuing, then really all I have to do is write one shitty sentence a day. And I had a Post-it note on my computer, and it says, write one shitty sentence. I'm like, oh, not a problem. And so when you lower the bar, then you meet that bar. And so I lowered the bar and said, oh, yeah, I can write a shitty sentence. And guess what? It wasn't a shitty sentence. And then I wrote another one. But had I said, okay, even if I were to say write 15 minutes a day, that could be overwhelming. But if I break it down into the smallest and just do one thing, and then allow momentum to kick in. Momentum is so underrated. And it doesn't, and I think people think that they have to see such a big difference. They don't. If they just see that much, there's nothing better than better, because better is measurable. Perfection is not.
No, perfection will drive you insane.
Yes. And perfection is the first cousin to procrastination.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when I got rid of perfectionism and just thought, let me finish things, and it's going to be a little bit better than it was before, then all this, like, it creates endorphins that kick in. And then life becomes so much more effortless than it was before. And
by the way, John
Maxwell,
forgive me for talking over you. I didn't mean to do that.
No,
you had said no, not that wasn't it at all. More, but you said something, and I simply didn't want to forget it or let it pass, which I love, which was when you talked about literally, to quote, one shitty sentence at a time, right? So John Maxwell, I just been paying more attention to, right? Yeah. So a couple things about him, which is number one, folks, if you're unaware, there are a ton of books. I don't know if the number is 90, and it might be, but literally a spectacular developmental coach and speaker. And so he talks about the fact his first few books he throws under a bus. That he's like, nah, none of them are very good. The first few, he said, were pretty awful. But he talked about, this is why I wanted to acknowledge you with this, which was, it's not one thought, it's not one sentence, but it's close, that he had said that's what he typically budgets. That it really is, no, it is one thought, because it's have one thought per day.
Yes,
and that's it. Write one thought per day and then put it away. Here's the question with thoughts, no pun intended, you thought leaders, comparing, like I said again, to the Jesse Itzlers, to the Sarah Blakeleys, to the John Maxwells. How are you able, because I think this is where I've held myself back and all that sort of thing, which is this. You know that you want to shut it off till tomorrow. What gets you to come back tomorrow?
I've become so, it's become part of a habit. And it has also become part of a rule that I don't let 3 days go by without it. So even when I don't want to, then I make sure I do. So it's it's a lot of just self, coaching. I do a lot of self-coaching where I will literally say, if I paid a high performing coach to tell me what to do, what would they tell me to do?
Mhm.
And so I play coach to myself, and then I take my own advice,
Mm.
and then I'll give myself pep talks. But I will also create a scenario where I'll play music that I love, or I'll have a setup where it's not that hard to do. And I will end on a note where when I pick up the next day,
Mhm.
it's kind of a continuum from the day before. So so I might stop, not mid thought, but I might end a sentence and knowing that I could have written more at that time, but I stopped myself. So that
tell me
tomorrow
that
when I
again.
come back, I'm picking right up and I still am.
Tell me
and
that
doing
again,
it.
because I think it's genius, and it's one of the things, because it's for myself. It's, oh, no, you know what? I have rules, and then don't do it. So what is that again that you just identified as a way to ease the odds of you showing up again tomorrow?
Yeah. So I stop at a point that
Mhm.
I could have gone on at that moment,
Mm.
but I'm regulating myself
Mhm.
to saying, stop now,
Mhm.
do something else,
Right.
come back tomorrow. And I've been able to do that. I also use this app called Focus, which is a game changer.
Okay. Okay.
Because it's part of the Pomodoro technique where you monotask. You do one thing at a time.
Oh my
So
God.
when I'm doing that, I'm not doing anything else. I'm closing out I don't have anything else, browsers.
Mhm.
My phone isn't remotely around me. And what I'm able to do in that time period, most people can't do in much longer time, because your mind is everywhere when you don't just sit down and do one thing at a time. So I don't multitask at
Oh
all.
my God. So one of my favorite bosses of all time, and she has since passed away. Her name is Karen Graham, and she was my boss at the television station in Philadelphia that I work with. And I mean it. She was one of my very favorite people, but also I felt like one of the strongest leaders I ever had. So I bring her up because, so this was back in the day, and I had all kinds of, like, not arrogance, but I was doing well. And
Yes.
so I was kind of in it, so to speak. And I remember this was back old enough story when BlackBerries were relevant, right?
Right.
So I
Yes.
didn't have one, I had two,
Of
because
course.
I want one for home and one for work. So,
Right.
so
You were
instead,
that person.
it make
Yes,
my
you were there.
even heavier with two BlackBerries.
So heavy, right?
So now I'm like the weight of a bowling ball. And right, so I go in, and it would be like important sales proposals. You had to run them by her. That was no problem. I always liked her expertise. So you
Yeah.
go in, and she's looking over at these, like, detailed, intricate, like, proposals and all that stuff. And I would just start talking about anything. And
Yeah.
I'm like checking this BlackBerry, checking that BlackBerry. Oh, hey, blah, 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 blah. And she stops me, and she says, literally, she said, John, what do you want me to do? Help you with the proposal or talk to you? So here was my first thought, right? I'm like, oh God, is she slow?
Duh.
Did you ever say something you felt bad about into even her afterlife? I still do, because she was genius. She said what you said, which is she got more done in any and every given day, because she could really, you talk about the Focus app and stuff, she could really laser. And
Yeah.
all of that sort of mindlessness that so many people, and I'll just speak for me, but you watch people that are constantly scrolling on their phones, and then they're reading this, and then they're on, and wait, and they think that they're, like, navigating their lives sufficiently because they're doing so much, and they're not. She was great. But you know what the key was for her? And I learned that after, and I've shared that with her when she was alive, because I just thought it was, ultimately, I realized how genius this is,
Right.
and how few times I have to force myself to focus. But the key was this: when the task is done, in her mind, it's done.
Yes.
Meaning
Yes.
it's done. And that
Yeah.
to me was the real gift, to not second guess yourself, not go back and dwell, not, you know what I mean? All that sort of thing.
That
So that's the gift. And that's the question I want to come back with you. How is done for you?
I feel I know when it's weird. I know when it's done. It's
Okay.
kind of like I don't, because then I've come to a point where it's like, I love this. I
Mhm.
don't like, there's nothing more I could do. And it's become almost natural where I
Mhm.
don't feel the need to always be doing things. And what I've
Mhm.
realized is that
Mhm.
even if I were to work on my book, like
Yeah.
if I were to do 15 minutes, I would stop doing the book and then I would go
Mhm.
do other things and I would let my brain process things.
Mhm.
And then so many times, just being in nature or walking, you get ideas and you can come back to
Mhm.
it. So I would almost let it go, literally let it go.
Mhm.
And then like eureka moments would come up later
Mhm.
naturally.
Yep.
And so it would just be natural to go back and put that in the book. And it was not painstaking. It would come to me instead of me trying to create something out of whole
Mhm.
cloth. It became
Mhm.
so much more natural.
So let me ask you this, because you've got, like, you talk about the book that's in process, the fact that you self-coach. Folks, by the way, that in addition to Full Circle, I am not only love crazy about Allie Connor, but I'm also crazy about her husband. They were both part of the Lewis House swag department,
Yes.
closet, whatever, and we've all been friends ever since. Are you able to help your family in regards to coaching with these specific ideas? Because it doesn't mean do they listen, because that's on them. But what I would say more of, do you see yourself pushing it outward in terms of helping other people, whether it starts with your family or outside or business or what have you, right?
Yeah, no, I do. And that comes naturally for me. Now, with my kids,
Right,
I try to lead by example, which isn't always, I mean, that can fall
right.
flat. But they they see me and they appreciate what I've created.
Mhm.
And
Right.
they see the authenticity in me. And
Mhm.
so I am able to go out and I honestly feel that I meet the people I'm supposed to meet. And it's in like,
Mhm.
I have such cool interactions with just random encounters. And I'm talking about like people in the Dollar Tree parking lot
Mhm.
or at pumping my gas
Mhm.
and in the checkout with at Walmart. It's like
Well, we
I
were random.
yeah, it's like that.
Right?
I
I mean, we were
yes,
could have been more random. I'm in the T-shirt place.
right.
You know what I mean? Right?
And and I've really created like one of my best friends I met in an elevator. And
Mhm.
so because
Mhm.
I live my life this way, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm drawing the people in that I need to draw in.
Mhm.
And little encounters with people go such a long way because I
Mhm.
really feel like my job in life is that I want everybody I meet or to encounter to to get something out of
Mhm.
meeting me. And
Like what?
like I can bring them joy that they might not have had.
I
And
got you.
that's kind of my
Mhm.
purpose because
Mhm.
I know not a lot of people can go out and in one day come back and have these stories and say, I had the coolest experience with somebody. And as a result,
Mhm.
this. And it's not to brag,
Mhm.
but it's by design. That's how I want to live my life that way. And so I really make a purpose of it and being outgoing. So if I'm in at UDF, I make a
Yeah.
point of
Mhm.
interacting with people
Mhm.
around me and putting myself out there because those little interactions are so important. And even such as like, I make a point to always smile at people, like little things like that, I weave into my life.
I've been asking everybody the same question unless I forget, and that's happened too. but that's
the
always
choir.
the intention, right? So thank God I didn't forget in this case. I asked people what is their definition, what is their definition of authenticity. I'm going to give you not a plan B, but simply because joy factors so much into the way that you live, the energy that you convey, and the process. And I know that firsthand. And folks, I promise you, I know that firsthand. How would you identify joy as it relates in your life?
I think the joy is truly the fabric of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. And it's become so purposeful. It is so different from happy, because happy can change, but I can find true joy in the smallest things. And I'm able to create joy from little things. And I live almost in a state of joy. And that doesn't mean like my life is perfect. It means that I've created the tools and I know how to not, like if I get in a funk, which I've gotten in funks,
I have.
Then I'm able to think like, okay, Allie, what would you tell somebody else? What have you done that has worked in the past? And I apply those. But joy is what I truly, when I hit rock bottom, I wanted to live a life of joy and not just be happy, because in my worst moment, I knew that I could have like pocket moments of happiness, but I felt there was a time where joy eluded me. I wasn't living in this constant joy where I am happy even when life isn't as great as it could be. And just living a life that's so authentic that if somebody were to come into my house and look through my drawers and look under my bed, they're not going to discover anything that would say, oh, she's not who she really says she is. In fact, they would come into my house and be like, oh my gosh, she's even better than we thought. And that's what
so that I love how
I wanted to create that. So I don't the people that love me or see me from somewhere else, they wouldn't be like, oh, she's not like that behind closed doors. No, I am so like that behind closed doors.
So that to me is joyful. And I love that you got both of them and tied them together so beautifully. I lied. I had one more question, which is this.
Let me say one more thing. I love myself. I love who I've become, and I haven't always felt that way. And so self-love for me was huge, where I thought if I don't love myself more than anything, then everything else, there's nothing else. I mean, that was a big thing for me. So I adore myself, and it's not a cockiness. I'm so proud of where I've come from and who I've become. And I use that as a scale. Like I think every night, like I want to, like, can I go to bed and say, I made myself proud every day? And so I kind of use like benchmarks like that. And so that that helps a lot.
It helps a ton. Now I want to stay right there, which is if somebody, because you've dropped a ton of ideas and techniques, I won't ask you what's the most important one or the best one or none of that. I'll only ask you what is one that you would pick if somebody is in a funk. And I guarantee you that has been me. So like say, if it's like, okay, I can't get out, like the old cliche, I can't get out of my own way, right? Is it wash a wall? Is it do the focus app? Like what would be one thing to help yourself build some of the momentum that you talked about before so that they could also experience joy?
Write a love letter to themselves.
Ooh. And
it doesn't have to be right then and there. Almost have an ongoing love letter that they write to themselves.
Like a conversation.
Yes. This is why I'm proud of you. This is what I see you doing in the future. And so, and then mailing it to themselves.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I love that.
Yeah.
This is, look, that one, the mailing it part. Oh, I got stamps. I can handle that.
Yeah, 73 cents these days.
No, I do. I got labels and everything. So I can make that work for me. So, folks, this is, you probably now are clearly aware of why I'm such a fan of Allie Connor. I know, Allie, you don't have to do the www. I hate when anybody asks me that kind of craziness. But what I was going to say is that your Instagram profile will be there. Your, like I said, your Facebook page will be there. Those are the best ways to get a hold of you when they want to learn more while we're sitting there waiting for your book.
So wait, did you just ask me what's the best way? I think Instagram at the moment.
Great. That's what I want to know. I mean, that'll be there. You don't have to, it's at the, that'll be there.
I think it is. There might be a one at the end. I'm not sure.
I don't know my own. See, I used to have this gift where I knew everybody's phone number.
Yes.
So first off, talk about how useless that is.
Hey,
I can barely give you my own. So it's like but I'm thrilled and honored, and I have to acknowledge you because, honest to God, the joy that you bring to me feels effortless. I love the fact that there's such substance behind it, and that just makes it even more. It feels like that much bigger of a gift. You know what I mean? And that's the part. So that's what I'm saying. I'm thrilled that you shared some of yourself today.
Thank you, John. This has been such a delight.
It's just been spectacular.
I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for the vulnerability.
Even all about this.
Oh my God, I'm overjoyed. So, folks, you've just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, loving, sharing, watching.
I'm gonna do a spin out.
Oh my God, that was. See, I can't risk doing that. See, this is somebody who's got real joy and confidence because, again, then you'd hear like the ER coming in if it was me. So, Allie Connor, we acknowledge you. Love you, love you, love you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Way more to follow. Have a great rest of the day, and we will definitely talk soon. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.